At Habib University, we look at classrooms like an ecosystem. It's dynamic, it's relational, and it's alive. We think about classrooms in a way, asking ourselves that what if a classroom can become a space of wonder, a space for joy, where learning is not a chore, but something that gives students hope. That's what we aim for at Habib University.
AI is doing all of the work, and if AI is taking you to X and there is no pursuit of a Y beyond the X, then what remains of education? Really, what remains of us as educators?
With the rise of generative AI, the world is changing very, very quickly. With that, teaching and learning is also evolving by the minute. If a student is now sitting in a classroom, their intention might be very different from a student sitting in the classroom with the same context, same background 5 years ago. So the Office of Teaching and Learning has a three-pronged purpose. We want to create spaces and avenues to meet the teaching and learning goals of the 6 programs at Habib University. We want to create a thriving faculty fellow culture, and all of that needs to trickle and actually help in creating student success at Habib University. Throughout the year, we have recurrent events happening at the university to help the faculty achieve their teaching and learning goals as per their 6 programs. One of our flagship event is the Pedagogical Development Week, PDW. And this year what we were having, the theme for PDW was reparation of self, reparation of classroom, and reparation of the world. Oftentimes when we talk about reparation, we are just talking about repairing something else, external to ourselves. So it was really important for us to talk about how can we heal ourselves? How can we, for example, listen better? How can we forgive? All those ideas which we often think about do not relate to us as instructors or as teachers, pedagogues. And I think it was really important to start the conversation at home from the self and then let it trickle out. For PDW, the most important thing for us is that we take extensive faculty feedback. We meet the program directors, we ask them what are their needs, we ask each program what are their needs, because that is, like I said, one of our purpose is that we want to meet their aspirations, teaching and learning aspirations. And that informs what kind of workshops do we want in the PDW? In this year's PDW, we had 24 sessions spread over 5 days. We were asking questions like, how do we contribute meaningfully to the world at large? How can we bridge the gap between communities and academia? How can we bring sustainability development goals, SDGs, into our education, into our classrooms? Can our classrooms integrate innovative teaching? Can we integrate service learning into our classrooms? What are the best tools and techniques in the current age of AI? How can we integrate AI in our assessment so that we are working with it? And if not, then telling students why is that, instead of a blanket no. And also we were asking, how can we create inclusive spaces within our classrooms? Can we heal ourselves in the collective fabric in which we live and lead? We had sessions on 𝐾𝐲, how can we bring the values of 𝐾𝐲 in our lived experiences and imbue those experiences in our students' lives. Doing sessions on how to pay attention more, how to bring the nuances and practice of contemplation into our lives, how to listen better, not only to others, but also to ourselves. We had a session on healing ourselves through movement, another on healing ourselves through wonder and play, bringing those values into our classrooms. We had a session on forgiveness as a compassionate response to both the repairable and the irreparable.
If we ask our students to go out into the world to do reparative work, to work on the big issues that challenge not just Pakistan or South Asia, but the global world together, then I have to be modeling that. And our instructors should be modeling that. How I act in the classroom is then also reflected with how I act with my colleagues, which is then reflected with how I work at the institution, and then how I also then relate to the world. Encourage instructors, professors, obviously, to think about both the hierarchy laterally, but the hierarchy up and down in the classroom. And that was to think about the differences with gender, with age, with educational, with teaching experience in the classroom, and how do we navigate these things to have a healthy relationship with each other as professors and as instructors at this university, and to think about each other as colleagues as opposed to competitors or people that, because they're not in my classroom, do not exist. Sometimes gets lost in academia as you get wrapped up in teaching your classes and hitting your research goals and, mentoring your students or mentoring younger faculty members, or yourself maybe looking for a mentor. Sometimes we just get so bogged down with the minutia of what it means to be a professor, which is frankly quite invisible to students. We also forget that part where we need to connect to each other in a non-competitive way. We are good teachers when we're able to talk to one another and when we're able to share tips with one another, when we're able to go to each other for help and assistance, but also to feel a part of the community.
In most educational institutions globally, there is this sort of one-sided kind of approach to artificial intelligence, to AI, that either just saying totally saying yes without asking any deeper, harder questions, and thereby walking into a sort of catastrophic situation, or otherwise just turning away and saying no, which is also sort of unrealistic. We are living in a time where precisely it's become very important to understand what exactly the capacities of AI are, how much of a bond of friendship should we be forming with it, and then what exactly human insight amounts to. This kind of question is not a new question. In philosophy and humanities, we go back and look at textual sources. I'll give you an example from Prometheus Bound. It was written by Aeschylus about a figure who precisely decides that the source for his own salvation lies in technology. The analysis of the tragedy reveals that there will always remain a gap between what is human insight and then what is technological. To look at technology in terms of the source of ethics, in terms of the source of emancipation, that has damaging, destructive consequences. We have to always be thinking about technology as a tool. No matter how cool and awesome it seems, it is a tool. What we can do differently as a humanities-focused liberal arts university is to precisely bring a thoughtful, critical lens. We are ideally situated to create this kind of collaborative focus between educators coming from different disciplines, right? To get together and to ask hard questions, which are vital questions for education.
One neat thing about this PDW was the involvement and participation of students in the workshops. So the student voices really helped some of the faculty members, and there were moments like aha, and it was so refreshing and heartening to see new faculty members completely immersed and enthused in both learning and reflecting on Habib's pedagogical ethos. Of the last many PDWs I have attended, probably this was the most awesome and the most reflective, I would say.
As faculty, it is integral for us to continuously evolve and refine our teaching methods and pedagogy. We do this to ensure greater student success at Habib University. We feel that such investments of time, energy, and resources are indispensable and non-negotiable.